So what is the gradient of a line? Well, the gradient is referring to how steep the line is. So before we go into how to actually calculate how steep a line is, I want to give you a bit of an intuition for what sort of values a gradient can take. So let me introduce you to my friend, Bob. Now, Bob is on a mission in life. He is seeking happiness. He is seeking positivity, we should say. Bob is on this sort of mountain, this slope, and he's climbing up, and he wants to be in the sort of positive, happy world up here. So I think there's like sun's up here, it's like a happy, positive place. Down here, in contrast, is bad things, negativity. I had an urge to draw like a sea with a shark in it, the depths of sadness. I don't know. Bob wants to improve his happiness. He's on a journey up this hill. And so as you can see, currently, he is gonna reach happiness. He's gonna reach positivity up here. So he's sort of reaching a fairly standard hill. By the end of this, he'll be gaining a happiness or a gradient of +1. If the hill was steeper, if Bob's climbing up here, he's going to be even happier. He's going up steeper into the world of positivity up here. So up here, I don't know, maybe he's going to gain +5. Maybe up here he'll gain +100. And he's going to go infinitely, infinitely happy if he goes all the way up here. Say it was sort of here, well, he's going to be reaching the positive world, but a bit more slowly. It's not going as far up into it. Maybe it's going to be a sort of +0.5 or something like that. Now, in contrast, say the hill was actually going down like this. Now you see Bob is going to be sliding into the depths of negativity. He's not doing well on his journey. So if our slope is angled like this, Bob is going to be sent crashing down into negative world. Down here, this is a fairly standard line. He's going to be -1 to his happiness, or a gradient of -1, we should say. And if we go an even steeper down here, Bob's going to be crashing down that line at an even faster rate. He's going to be even more negative. Maybe it's -7 or something. And maybe down here, it's getting steeper. Maybe it's like -20 and maybe -100. And infinitely unhappy down here. Down here is super negative, and it's still negative, still negative, still negative. This is all negative. Here, well, he's still sliding down, but he's not sliding down that quickly. Maybe it's -0.5 or something like that. All the way here, he's still negative, still negative. What about if the line is straight? Well, Bob won't really be moving. He won't be changing his happiness. His life won't be more positive or more negative. It would be a gradient of 0 here. So I've talked about this in terms of positivity and negativity. These numbers are sort of vague ideas of what the gradients could be with different varying levels of steepness. Just think, if you see a line and you can imagine Bob sliding down it, then we know that he's going to be going to negative world. We're expecting a negative gradient. If it's more like this, we're expecting a bigger negative number because he's crashing down quicker. If he's going up here, he's climbing up into positive land. We're expecting a positive gradient and a much bigger positive gradient if it was like this. Now, let's look at how we would find a gradient of a line accurately. So here I've got my graph and I've got a line, and we want to find the gradient of this line, so how steep this line is. Now, to find the gradient, what we're going to do is we're going to pick a nice point on the line. And by nice point, I mean one of these points that is exactly on the coordinate grid line. So for example, this point here, you can see is exactly on one of the corners of the grid. And what we're going to do, we're going to go one square across like this. So we go one across, and then we're going to ask ourselves, how many squares up or down do I need to go to hit the line again? So in this case, I'm going to be going up, and I need to go up 1, 2 to hit the line, which means the gradient of this line is 2. I've gone up 2, so if I go up here, we're going up into positive land, it's going to be a +2. So the gradient is +2, or just 2. This makes sense with our Bob image. We can imagine Bob climbing up, sense check that it's going to be a positive line. Often you see the letter M representing the gradient. This sort of annoys me a little bit because you'd expect it to be a G, not an M. So I'm just writing this now so you sort of get used to seeing the gradient represented by an M. One way maybe to think about it is if you imagine this line as a mountain, as we have been doing with Bob climbing up and sliding down it, M could stand for sort of mountain. But yeah, M is representing the gradient of the line. So for this line, our gradient is 2, M equals 2. Let's have a look at the line over here. We want to pick a nice point on the line. So I'm going to pick, say, this point here. So a point that is on the corners of the grid. Now I'm going to go one square over to the right, and then I'm going to count how many squares up or down do I go to hit the line. So here I'm going to be going up, so it's going to be a positive gradient, and I'm going up 1, 2, 3 to hit the line again. So this is +3 here. So our gradient is going to be 3. M equals 3. Let's have a look at this one. So we pick a nice point. I can pick it anywhere. Let's pick this point here. I go one square along to the right. So always remember we're going to the right this way as though you were reading a book. And then how many squares up or down do I go? And in this case, we're going down. So I'm going to go down 1, 2 squares. So it's -2 I've gone down 2, noting that it's a minus because we've gone down into the depths of negativity. So our gradient is going to be m equals -2. So really good to just double check the signs of our gradient. So this one was positive, and you can imagine Bob going up into positive land. He's climbing up into the sunshine. Here, Bob will be sliding down. It's like a slide down into the shark pit down here. So we're happy that this is a negative gradient. The sign's really important. Okay, how about this one? So I'll pick a nice point. So this one's on a corner. As usual, we're going to go across 1. How many up or down do I go to reach the line? I go just up 1, a +1. So our gradient m equals 1. Let's have a look at this one. I'll pick a nice point. I can pick this one. We're going to go across 1. And then this time it looks like I'm going down to hit the line. So I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've gone down, which means we've got a -4. We've gone down 4, so -4. And we're happy it's negative sign. Indeed, you can imagine Bob sliding down into negative land. So our gradient m equals -4. Now let's have a look at this one. A nice point, let's say here. I go across 1, and now I'm going up to hit the line, but have a look, I'm actually not going up a full square, I'm just going up half a square. And I can tell it's half because if I went along again, then I would meet the top of the square. So going along 1, I go up half a square here, adding a half as I go up. So our gradient m is a half. So it's totally okay to have fractions as your gradient. You could also write this as m equals 0.5. Okay, how about this one? So if I pick a nice point, I go across 1, I'm already on the line. I don't need to go up or down. It's +ing 0 really. So our gradient is just 0. And that makes sense. This is our stationary Bob. He's not really getting anywhere on his journey. He's not going into positive world. He's not going into negative world. He's just stationary. M equals 0. There you go. That's how you find the gradient. And always remember to think about where Bob would end up on his journey. Would he be in the positive land? Would he be in the negative land? And make sure you're careful with your signs. I've also made a little interactive tool that you can use to play around with finding gradients and seeing how slopes of lines impact the gradient. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more aesthetic mathsy videos, do check out my channel and subscribe.